Okay, now I've allowed these initial layers to settle down. They're still a little bit tacky, but it's enough for me to get on with. What I'm going to do just before I really go in with the whites is just add the odd bright shot here and there. I'm using a 1.5 inch brush. It's still a flathead. I always use flathead brushes really. They tend to give you a much more interesting mark as you apply them. If you use things like round head brushes or filberts, which are slightly more curved, the tendency is you want to do a little bit more and you want to try to blend. But again, with acrylics, the more blending you do with the medium, the duller it can go. So as much as possible, I try to avoid that eventuality really, because again, it's all about freshness and keeping the colour as fresh as I possibly can. Okay, so I've added a few shots there, just working my way again around the canvas, just to find some interesting little pockets of light. Again, I don't want to get bogged down at any stage. I'm always thinking of the next stage and keeping the momentum, if you like, of painting going. The more I stop and consider things, the more I'm going to get probably paranoid about the painting. So it's all a constantly fluid motion. So we'll do a few little bits here and there, some marks there. I'm pleased with maybe the quantity of paint there. Again, there's certain things which will crop up. You might think in some areas it needs a bit more paint. If you're going to go back to areas, try to, again, be as fluid as possible. One of the major factors of this kind of painting is that it's quite good to try to build up your confidence beforehand. So maybe if you were to practice, maybe on smaller canvases, smaller brushes, and when you feel confident enough, just don't be afraid of just grabbing a load of paint and just applying it in a very confident manner. I try to instill in my own brain that I'm fully convinced by the mark I'm going to make, and I just apply it really without any hesitation. The more I hesitate, the more I'm going to fiddle, the more I'm going to be insecure about what I'm doing. So everything is as fluid and as unfettered as it possibly can be. So let's go in with white. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll start again with the sun, loads and loads of white. Again, you don't want to hesitate when it comes to paint, because if I did it in small dabs, I wouldn't get the fluidity of the marks. So I'm convincing myself now that lots of paint is good. I've got a big brush, so that's going to give me lovely expressive marks. A touch of lemon yellow and cadmium yellow. By now, my palette is kind of slightly corrupted with other colours, so there's a few reds, there's a couple of greens in there, which is fine as long as the dominant colour is either yellow or the white. Okay, and again, I can just dive in with a lovely, too much yellow on there, so tons more white. Lovely, expressive paint. I just really like the way it breaks up there and you get this lovely fluidity of just how paint settles. That's my starting point, and I'm now going to just emanate from that area with lots more white. I'm going to start to include other colours, and maybe a touch of magenta around this side. I'm going to be painting around some of the branches here and there. I don't want to be too precise. Again, at this stage, it's still all about being painterly, and when I get to the detail stage, that's when I'll sharpen up. And again, drag some of this up. Start to step back. I'm kind of analysing, really, that I've got the quantities right. Work our way out. I'm going to start using blue now, so I'll go to a clean area of white. Processed cyan, which is a really dark blue, but when you tone it down, or tint it down, you get a lovely, lovely light blue. And I might just grab a little bit of yellow as well and start to manoeuvre in this area. Lots of little twigs and branches around here, but I don't want to get too bogged down with too many irrelevant little marks. I've got a very potent focal point, and hopefully the colours will speak for themselves and just produce contrast and variations for interest. Okay, so we're working our way in here. Acrylic is notoriously difficult to blend in with each other, so what you end up doing, or what I end up doing anyway, is laying colours side by side. So the subtle tints here vary from this one. If I want to link them, I can just maybe skim very lightly with very soft pressure from one to the other. Too much kind of bluey green in there, so again, just softening and locating subtle tints all the time. What's happening is the brush is getting a little bit too bluey, so I'm getting more white with yellow. Obviously, those two combinations may well give me a green, so I'm trying to dominate the blue as much as I can, maybe introduce a little bit of yellow ochre. I want some blue there. Again, it's all about the balance of colour. Okay, so we'll get some subtler shades here. I don't want the white to go too flat, so lemon yellow is a really good colour to spark white to life. And again, I'm leaving this kind of negative shape painting where I'm painting the sky to draw out shapes. Okay, so working our way down here. Just a couple of flicks here and there. I'm just going to do this area, then we can reassess where we are from there. A couple of marks for the reflections. Again, it's so easy to get bogged down with some areas because your mind starts to play tricks on you and provide so much information, but you want to be as general as you can, really. That way, like I say, when it comes to the detailing, you can really pick and choose where you want these areas to come through. Just drag some of these down. There's a couple of ducks floating around here and there. Little marks I've made are kind of insurance policies, really, to kind of, do I want to use that mark later or not? I'll leave that one because I quite like that mark. It doesn't quite look like a duck yet. It may never do, but it's an interesting little mark that, again, looks fluid and in keeping with what I've done so far. So we're just coming to, again, balances are important. So I've just moved on to a little bit of cobalt blue here, just to give me some variations in the blue. Just got to be a little bit careful around here. Again, it's the edge of the tree, so I don't want to be too liberal, really, about covering everything. And just coming to the end around here. Just going to use a slightly darker pitch of blue with maybe some processed cyan. It's one of the tricky things about painting and talking at the same time, because my brain is activating quicker than my painting arm. So I'm trying to be, like I say, as instinctive as possible. And it's one of the things that I really promote in painting, in the workshops that I run and when I do demonstrations. This idea that just let your mind kind of take control a little bit and don't think too much about processes, just to see what happens when you just free up a little bit. You'll be really surprised what comes through. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the applications of light. Again, step back just to really quantify where things are. I like the contrast that are coming through. There's some lighter bits there, but at this stage, I'm probably best to let this light settle down and then go in with the final flicks of light, maybe a couple of little bits of detail, sharpen up some of the branches, and then it'll be done. Okay, so now the highlights have settled down a bit. I can go in with the last stage, which is just define a few bits and pieces here and there, just a few concentrated, very strong highlights of almost pure white, and just really tied it up. So we'll go in with the strongest white first, which is something I reserve till the very end. And what I'm looking to do is just to really punctuate a couple of areas here and there. So as soon as these marks go in, they just stand off a little bit more. I'm using a 1-inch brush, probably the finest brush I'm going to use on this one. And it's enough really to just, like I say, just focus the attention in a couple of areas. I can use the extreme edge of the brush really just to clarify some little bits and pieces here and there. Like I say, it's not always the right thing to do, obsessing about detail, and sometimes you want a slightly freer impression to your work, so people start to relate to it on a different level. How the colours work, how the marks just instill a sense of atmosphere. The detail thing, again, if you work from photos a lot, you might get a bit too bogged down with those, but really, when it comes to painting, you've got free rein in terms of what you want to express in your work. So again, just working around the canvas, picking small defining highlights out here and there, and it just, like I say, just sharpens up things a little bit more. And obviously, like I say, I don't want to spend too long finishing with this, so again, trying to be extremely fluid. I will go in a little bit more with some strong colours at the end, but we'll just finish off with these highlights here and there. This is quite an important area that leads in, so again, some smaller marks dotted around, and around here we'll go a little bit more bluey and maybe purpley with the white. And again, it's just to locate those little defining points that will draw your eye in. And really, for a scene that's quite subdued compositionally, light and colour can really lift and create hopefully some drama. And that's pretty much it for this landscape. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this programme. Join me next time where I'll be painting this portrait. Until then, happy painting.
Now available to buy. Try these techniques at home whenever you wish. The extended DVD of today's workshop and the book that accompanies this series are now available from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.